Hey, folks, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of Paul Mooney because it wasn't but, I would say 2 nights ago that my mom and I were watching a movie with Paul Mooney in it. And we were wondering what happened to Paul Mooney. And my mom recounted that he was a man who was always at the Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame benefit and all the parties, and always a kind person, funny, occasionally demanding, uh, but always present in more ways than one. And what folks have to understand is that the Oakland of that time was different. The black population was much larger. It was quite common for someone who was African American to make enough just on the job alone, as a man or a woman, to raise a family. And I think from an economic perspective, it was better mixed than it is today. But Oakland was the hole in the donut, and I say that because Paul is very much part of Oakland. And it was within that crucible that really supported the Paul Mooney that we came to know and love. Paul Mooney always made me cringe because he would always say the stuff that I could never say, and I never wanted to say because I don't use the N-word. But I would think in my head, he's right. But I'd always then think, man, why do you have to put himself on the outskirts like that, right? But the world, I think, in a good way, caught up to Paul Mooney. And the reason why his way not only endures but flourishes is because we have enough collected history to express the internet and social media to realize that we do have a unique gift that we've given to the world that the world has not always appreciated, including, some of us. He would call it whitewashed. And yet, I can mark in my head a number of times where it was obvious to me as a kid what he was saying was correct. Like, for example, there used to be this term mark. You're a mark. Being a mark was not something you didn't want to be. You wanted to be, rather. A mark was a person who, it was interchangeable. If they called you a mark, maybe it was because you were a tattletale, or because in some kind of way you boiled down to a jerk. All right? I always heard only my black counterparts and friends use that term, like Robert Dupart at Bret Hart Junior High School. You're a mark, man. Not to me, because I wasn't a mark. But he was a mark at times. That's another story. But then, like 10 years later, I heard someone white using it. And I was like, wait a minute. My first thought was, that term's old, man. Where'd you get that term? It's old, man. And I can go on and on and on with different examples of, like, the fist bump or the high five that we started, that in particular the high five, that became indelible parts of American culture. So when people talk about reparations, I keep thinking, heck, forget slavery. Give me money for that number of times that I used the high five before somebody white did. But that's what Paul Mooney is talking about, you know? He was right. And now we have this library in the clowns, as some would call it, to basically affirm what Paul Mooney was saying. Paul Mooney was a comedian because he knew how to express the pain of cultural rape, okay, that has been done to us many times over the decades. And this isn't something that anybody can just forget or wash away. That, what I just said, is part of our history. You might think that I'm being hating or something like that. No. Being right, okay? That is an unfortunate part of the hard facts that created America. And Paul Mooney knew how to make you laugh about them. And even though he's left us on this day, he will never stop. Rest in peace, Paul. Rest in power.